Good evening. Hello. So it's me again, your friendly Tim Stifler Dean. Thought it was a pretty beautiful night out. I know it's 1 o'clock in the morning and also a little bit rainy, but that's like perfect, right? So anyway, just taking a walk, doing some thinking, and I've been thinking a lot about. Many of you know that like my motto in life is it's the tattoo I want to get. It is free to fail. It's free to fail, right? Sorry if that was too loud. Anyway, free to fail, and it's this idea that that I am imperfect. And I will always be imperfect, and everyone around me is imperfect. And so because of that, I am able to have compassion and forgiveness for people, and also for myself. I have in the past quite often had a tendency of beating myself up pretty heavily, and just going into a state of depression and sadness because of my failures. And so it's another car. And so it's really important to me, this idea of being free to fail, right? So anyway, long story short, just some thoughts in my mind tonight is that this idea of being free to fail, while it is very liberating and freeing and allows people like myself to have compassion for ourselves, and then also to look at others and have compassion for them, and to respond to them more empathetically, right? There's a catch to it, and it's something that I've noticed in myself recently, and which is why I'm making this little very personal video. I think while it does allow me, and I'll just speak about me, I'm not going to use you or us or anything like that, but for me, free to fail, it allows me to be very open, be very vulnerable with my community, with the people watching this video like you, or with my friends or family, or with Leah, with myself, right? But one of the problems, and there's two that I want to kind of hit on. One of the problems with it is actually that because of my vulnerability, right, because of my openness to being vulnerable, it actually causes me, or it allows me to very freely speak my mind, right? And so I have found myself often recently just speaking my mind, exactly what I believe, exactly what I think in any given moment, and not always to the desired effect. I don't really believe in holding my tongue if I believe that something is really wrong, right? I don't think I should hold my tongue if I really sternly believe that. But beyond that, because I'm open with my feelings and my emotions and my thoughts and ideas and passions and all of those things, and I'm not afraid to fail, it's also gotten me to having this tendency of being a bit rude to people, and I've caught myself doing that quite a lot more often recently than I have in the past, because if I disagree with somebody, I will very, very clearly say, no, I disagree with you, and this is why you're wrong. Now, that said, I might be totally right. I might be absolutely correct in my correction of them, right? Or in my disagreement with them. But I think at a certain point, I also have to know, it doesn't matter if I'm right or if I'm correct. I don't have to state these things all the time. I don't have to correct somebody all the time. I don't need to voice my opinion. because there's a time and a place, and there right now is not necessarily the time or the place, right? And it's put some tension in a few relationships that I'm not going to specifically mention, but I can think of right now, which has brought all this to the front of my mind right now. It's put a bit of tension there because I have, in being free to fail with my opinion and being open to being corrected, I think something I have to recognize and I have to work with is the fact that not everybody is like that. So when I give my opinion, when I voice a disagreement or an idea, or when I make a statement of a correction of somebody, I know that it is entirely possible for me to be totally wrong in that moment. I absolutely know that. If I disagree with somebody and they come back to me with reasons showing me why I'm wrong right then, I'm in. Cool. I'm wrong. I will apologize immediately. I will say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I've learned. Thank you for teaching me, whatever it might be, right? But because not everybody is in tune, I hate that phrase. It sounds so elitist. Because not everyone is in that mindset of, oh, he's stating his opinion, but he's open to hearing correction from me as well. Oh, he's saying that I'm wrong, but he's open to hearing why he's wrong, right? Because not everybody's in that mindset of feeling free to correct me. Then I just come across as incredibly smug and pretentious, incredibly opinionated, and really intolerant, right? And offensive. And that has happened more than a few times, right? And I have to recognize that not everybody thinks in that same way. And also that my thinking in that way causes me to be a bit more vocal than I necessarily should be, right? The second thing, and this one's a little bit shorter, just like a briefer note for myself, right, is this idea of being free to fail has caused me to build an expectation for others around me to also be free to fail. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but not everybody is there. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to sound, again, like elitist when I say that. Not everybody thinks in that way. And so for me to build that expectation, I've come into disagreements with people, conversations with people, not even necessarily disagreements. But when they refuse to show any kind of vulnerability, I tend to push that a little bit too much. I want to see weakness, not because I want to be able to destroy you or anybody, but because I want to build you up. I want to help you get through that weakness. Sometimes we don't even realize what our weaknesses are until they're pointed out to us. And so, when I push that way, or when I look for those weaknesses, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to harm somebody or because I'm trying to show them how I'm so much better or anything like that. But it's because I am looking for how we can rectify things together and work together to build each other up, right? A lot of times it's our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities that we are in denial of that cause us the greatest amount of pain. So because I have that expectation as well for everyone around me, what ends up happening is I'll get into a conversation. I'll use this example. I love Leah to death, right? And we have disagreements. We're in a relationship. That's what happens, right? That is a relationship. We learn to work through them. And sometimes, when I'm talking to her, I might notice, where she doesn't want to admit something she's struggling with. I do it too. Like, I'm not throwing her under the bus. Like, we all do it, right? But in noticing where she might be missing something in herself, or in denial, or covering it up, or not realizing it, or just it's blind, like she's blind to this problem where she doesn't want to be vulnerable, so she like puts up a wall or anything like that, right? Like, in those moments, because I love her, I push a little harder, right? And because I care so much about her, I push a little harder. And then when her response is not what I expect, that expectation is wrong, right? When her response is not what I expect, then I start getting frustrated, right? Because I'm like, oh my goodness, why can't you just see this? And it's not her fault. Like, I can't have that expectation. If I have that expectation, like, that is a disservice to her. I'm disrespecting her. And I'm disrespecting everyone around me when I hold them to an expectation that they don't have for themselves. I cannot hold an expectation for everyone around me to being open to just letting down their walls and being open to being vulnerable, right? Being open to being corrected by me or by themselves or whatever, right? So, and by holding that expectation, it causes issues. So those are just a couple things on my mind. I don't really know if I need to like share these things in video. I don't know if it's a problem. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know anything really, I don't. But the things that I'm realizing are that this idea of being free to fail is great. I think it's cool, but there are potential downsides. And the potential downsides are just the fact that everyone's different. Everyone responds to things differently. And not everyone thinks in the same way I do. So I can't talk to them as if they think and they understand or they believe or perceive things in the way that I do. I have to speak in a different way. Empathy is only a valuable thing to have or to desire if I'm actually going to use it to speak to the heart or to the mind or the emotions. So anyway, yeah, that's like pretty much it. I'm gonna keep walking around here and think a little bit more on this, but I would love to hear what you think as well. So peace.